Hello, welcome to Cooking and Storing with Ann and Wayne. Today we're down here at our freeze dryer and we're going to talk about replacing the battery. If you've ever had a situation where your machine is turned off for a while, or maybe it's unplugged, and when you turn it back on, it doesn't remember any of the settings that you put into it. It doesn't even remember its own serial number. If you had a name right up here, if you named your freeze dryer, it has forgotten its name. Those are common problems for a dead battery. Today we're going to show you how, and theirs is a medium-sized freeze dryer. It was built late last year, I think September if I remember right. But it is a current model and style. Some of the styles are built a little differently, but we're going to be showing you how to get into this one. We're going to show you how to take the covers off. We're going to show you where the battery is at. We're going to talk about the ESD that you need to be cautious about to not destroy your electronic components. We're going to show you how to change the battery, and then we're going to show the results. Now, to replace your battery in your freeze dryer, the first thing you want to do is unplug the machine. This is very important. It's a safety thing not only for you but for the machine as well, and we'll get into that a little bit more later, but make sure you unplug it. Now, the things you're going to need: you need a new battery. Now, the battery that's in the machine is a 3032. Our machine was built as either September or October of 2022. Its current model has a 2032. Yep, 2032 is the number of the battery that's in there. That's what we'll be replacing. And you'll need an Allen wrench. Now, this is a nut driver kind of thing, but our tip is a 1/8 inch Allen. You got 2 screws here you got to take out. We've already taken those out to speed things up a little bit. But you got to take these 2 out. Then I'm going to turn the machine around to get to the back of it, because there's a bunch of screws in the back, and we'll show you that part. There's also some you don't want to take out. We'll show you that as well. Now, on the back of your machine, there's actually, if I counted right anyway, there's 20 screws you have to take out of the back of it. Again, just like on the front, 1/8 millimeter or 1/8 inch Allen wrench is what takes them out. And what I would recommend you do to make this easier is these top 2 screws, loosen them but don't take them out. Take the rest of your screws out and then get those last, and that helps hold the back panel in place for you and make it a little easier to manage as you're taking it off. And I'll show a picture of this up in the corner, but down here on this panel, there's 2 screws here that you do not want to take out. Like I said, I put a picture up in the corner of that, but do not take those out. But take the rest of your screws out. I'm going to go ahead and do that right quick and take the cover off. Okay, now I got the last of my screws out, and that leaves this part loose, so we just take that off and set it down out of our way somewhere. I'll put mine right there for now. The top part, you slide back just a little bit. It doesn't slide back far, and then up. So just pull it there, and it lifts up and off, and that's how you get the top off. This part right here is the part that holds your electronics, and your battery is right up in there. We'll show you a close-up of that here in just a little bit when we get to actually replacing the battery. But I'd like to say, if you find this video useful, please click like on it, share it with your friends, particularly your friends that have freeze dryers, because this battery, occasionally they do need to be replaced, and it's not hard to do. And also, if you would subscribe to our channel, we would really appreciate it. We're kind of new with this particular YouTube channel, and that subscription, if you subscribe, it really helps us. But now, while I'm here at this point, I wanted to go ahead and talk about putting the covers back on, because they can be a little aggravating. I learned that already myself. This part I'll show you a little bit later about how to make sure that it's in place. But when you go to put the top back on, there's these little tabs here. There's 6 or 3 of them on each side. They go into these little holes here. And sometimes they can be kind of hard to get lined up. This part here that goes under this part, you stick in first. So you put that under there. And then you got to watch for those little tabs to get in their grooves. And I found this side over here to be particularly aggravating sometimes. I usually have to pull it over some like so to get it in there. There. But once you get those 6 little tabs in those little slots, you just push it forward, which it doesn't go forward very far. Right there like that. And that's all it is to putting this thing on. Like I said, it can be a little bit aggravating because of those tabs having to be in at the top, but they go in and then slide forward. And don't slide forward, but just a little bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch. And then of course your back panel just goes on here. That's pretty easy to put on. All right, that's it for the covers. Now before I show you how to replace the battery, I want to take a minute or two, and this is extremely important, is electrostatic discharge, commonly called ESD. Now if you've ever been in a room that had new carpet and you walked across it, you shuffled your feet and you touched your buddy and you shocked him, that's ESD. That's electrostatic discharge. Your body can build up static and it can shock people like that when you got new carpet, things of that nature. But the amount of static that can destroy these circuit boards is so much weaker than that, you wouldn't even feel it if you touched it, okay? These circuit boards, the one that's right under here, the one that's back there that your battery is actually on. There's also a small one right here at your, I think that's a vacuum pressure sensor or something. Those circuit cards can be damaged and permanently destroyed by ESD. The way you protect yourself with that is you've always got to be touching ground when you're working on these things. Now in my case, I've got a wrist strap that I hook to ground, and anywhere on the machine that's bare metal like this, I used a bolt that's down here that's part of the frame, but anything that's usually bare metal within the machine is a good ground point. So hook the other end to something that's a good ground, and that protects you from building up static in your body that can damage and destroy those cards. Now if you don't have one of these, and we will put a link in the description where you can purchase one if you want to, but you don't have to. But if you don't have one, anytime you're working on this stuff, make sure you got a hand on something that's metal, okay? That keeps your body from building up static that can destroy those components, okay? So when you're working on this thing, it's best if you can work with one hand, keep the other hand on the metal of the machine. That way your body doesn't build up the static that can destroy those cards, because if just a little bit of shock to these cards, and you got to replace them. So now you got to find out which one's bad. You got to order it. You got to wait on it to get here. It's a lot easier to prevent that static. And I'm making a big deal about this, I know, but I've worked in the computer industry for years, and I've seen a lot of components destroyed by static that you never feel. So just be aware of that. Always keep in contact with the metal frame while you're working on these things. Now to get to your battery, this part right here, you've already taken the screws out. When you took these top 2 screws out at the top, it lifts straight up, and then you can turn it around. Your battery is right there. Now we've already changed ours, and I don't want to be taking mine in and out more than I have to. And I'll make a close-up of this, but that little silver tab right there that sticks up this way, you push that back and the battery's kind of spring-loaded. That end of it will kind of come loose. You can take it out. The new one goes back in the same way. You put the bottom end in first, and then to push the top, and it'll snap behind that little piece of silver metal that's up at that end. And like I said, I'll put a close-up of this up in the corner. And that's all it takes to change the battery. Now to put this thing back in place, there's a metal right here that kind of sticks down. It goes in that groove right there. So just set it over here. Make sure it sets down in that groove at the front. And there you go. Now it is a little bit loose, but when you put your covers back on, these 2 screws will tighten it down and it'll be secured in place. And that's all it takes to replace the battery. So there you have it. It's just that easy to change the battery in your Harvest Right freeze dryer. The most difficult part is getting the back covers off. But don't forget about the electrostatic discharge as well. But basically all you need, a 1/8 inch Allen wrench. It's good to have an ESD strap, but it's not required. And but anyway, that's what you got to have. And of course the battery, the 2032. Now let's turn it on and see what happens. Takes a moment to initialize and boot up. Should see something here soon. There we go. Says initializing now. And there we go. Back to our main screen. We're ready to go. Now at this point, we just enter our configuration stuff, and it's good to go with a new battery that should keep us from losing our information in the future. So there you have it. We really appreciate you visiting Cooking and Storing with Ann and Wayne. We're wishing you good food and safe storing.